A better life, better vision, what you wanting? Let's make it happen. Time to choose the better story. Come on. Choose the better story. Hey, choose the better story. Yeah.
All right, so welcome back to another episode of Choose the Better Story. My name is Ryan and I'm the host. This is a podcast about vision, mindset, performance, and purpose. And today I've got a very special guest in the house, in the studio. Kelli Gordon is with us today. So Kelli, thank you for joining us on the podcast today.
Thank you for having me.
So excited. Well, tell us, give us a spark notes here, a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Sure.
Go ahead and brag. Why are you so amazing?
Well, I'm not totally sure on, why I'm so amazing, but I can tell you a little bit about who I am. Who am I? I am a longtime Ridge resident. I grew up in the Paradise Ridge community. It's a very important part of my life. I am a mother of two. I have a 20-year-old son, River, and my 17-year-old daughter, Brooke, and am married to my best friend, Michael, who I actually met at Paradise High School, which is pretty fun. We'll have been married 25 years this summer. I am co-principal at Paradise High School, which is pretty fun because that's the school that I attended. And I'm co-president of the Paradise Rotary Club, which keeps me busy. So I like to be active, have my fingers in a lot of things, passionate about my community, education, and life.
Okay. Well, you answered it. That's why you are so amazing. Those are a lot of things. Tell us a little bit about your upbringing. What's unique about your story and your upbringing?
The thing that stands out to most people about my upbringing is I am adopted. I was adopted at birth. My siblings are also adopted. Mine was a closed adoption. My brother was a closed adoption. My sister was an open adoption, so variance in our adoption stories. And I did meet my birth parents when I was older. I met my birth mother when I was 20 and my birth father when I was 30. So I have a lot of family. My family's very uniquely constructed.
Okay. And how old were you when you found out you were adopted? Is that something you always knew, or did you find out later in life? How did that happen?
Yeah, it's actually a fun story because my parents handled it really, really well. I always knew that I was adopted, and they phrased it as a very positive thing in my life. They would always tell me that they chose me and that they got to have me, and they had a story of when I was little on a playground, and very little, maybe 4 years old, and talking to another little one, and I said, "Oh, you're not adopted? I'm sorry." So it was phrased in my mind as a very positive thing.
Yeah, like you were fortunate.
Yes, yeah.
There you go. So, I'm curious because, that's not part of my story. Mm-hmm. That's not part of a lot of people's story. Mm-hmm. What's that like, being adopted? To me, that's I would try to put myself in your shoes, but I don't know if I could appropriately. What's it like being adopted?
Sure. Well, it's also interesting because I couldn't put myself in the shoes of somebody growing up with their biological family. So there's little things like I'm still fascinated by siblings that look like one another. That just blows my mind. And I think it's the coolest thing. They look like a little salt and pepper shaker set, right? So to me, I somewhat resemble my parents. My siblings somewhat resemble my parents, but just that it's different. I was always very unique. I'm very different from my family, as we all are. Mm-hmm. Even if you're with your biological parents, you're always going to be your own human. But for me, there was always a wondering. I was just curious. I had wonderful parents, but I was curious. Where did I come from? Who am I like? Who do I look like? And just the whole aspect of nature versus nurture is fascinating to me because there's so many things that you would assume would be nurture that in my experience have been nature.
And it sounds like your experience was you were brought up with adoption being like a blessing. It was like you were fortunate, which is a super great perspective. I'm glad that was your perspective. Another question I have is what's something that you wish everyone knew about people that were adopted?
Sure. I think the biggest thing is that everybody's story is so different, and one adoptee's journey is completely different from another. Mm-hmm. So while my perspective on adoption was very positive, there's many people who don't have a positive outlook on adoption for a plethora of different reasons. And so I think it's very important to never speak to the experiences of the whole because each individual experience is so different. And a lot of people are very private about adoption. Maybe they haven't told people. Maybe they didn't find out. Maybe it was very traumatic for them to find
Right.
out that they were adopted.
Right.
So I think that's the biggest thing is people have always been very respectful, and I've always been a very open book about my adoption, probably because it was phrased so positively to me. But that sometimes that's something that's tender and hurts for people.
Sure. I'm curious, you mentioned open adoption and closed adoption. What's the difference there?
Yeah. So I was born way back in the 70s, and during that time, there really weren't very many open adoptions. It was what's called closed adoption. So I was adopted through an agency. My birth mother went and put me up for adoption before I was born. And then my parents had come to the same adoption agency wanting to adopt a child. So they never met each other or anything like that. It's kind of interesting. I came with paperwork, and it said things like the height and weight of my biological parents, maybe some of their hobbies. I knew that I had siblings and very little about them. So that was all closed because I didn't have access to that information. Interestingly, I was born in Oregon, and they did unlock adoption records many years ago now, and so I was able to access my original birth certificate. But up until that point, when I decided I wanted to search for my birth mom, it was through the agency.
Okay.
And the agency facilitated that, reached out to her, made sure that she was comfortable with me contacting her. An open adoption, we knew my sister's birth mom before she was born. So she had selected our family.
Okay.
We had met, gotten to
Gotcha.
know each other. I was there when she was born. And then that has its own complications too, where, I grew up not knowing, but also growing up knowing can be difficult.
Sure.
So that's where that individual story comes in.
Yeah.
So interestingly.
Yeah, absolutely. How has being adopted shaped the way that you lead students? Because that's your career. How has it shaped the way that you lead students who are also trying to figure out who they are?
Yeah, I love that part. Back when I taught middle school, I would draw my family tree out on the whiteboard, and it literally took up the entire whiteboard. And I would ask them to tally how many siblings I have, because I can't just tell you off the top of my head how many siblings I have.
Oh, wow.
And so, I grew up with my brother and sister, so I would start there, and that was fairly easy. And then I met my biological brother through my mom when I was 20, and so that still is fairly simplistic. You get on my biological father's side, and things get a little more complicated. There's more siblings. And when they were able to see me as that human, and that I hadn't necessarily had the story that they assume that their teacher has, it made it really a good entry point in relating to one another and letting them know that I see where you are, I feel where you are, and that no matter what your family makeup is, that's okay. That's just part of our story.
Right. And I know you're a part of a podcast, or you've made a podcast titled "Do You Know Your Real Mom?"
Yeah.
What's the story there?
Yeah. So, my podcast is called "Do You Know Your Real Mom?" because when people find out you're adopted, especially when you're young, the very first thing they ask is, well, do you know your real mom? And I would always say, well, of course, my mom is my real mom.
Yeah.
She's as real as your mom is. She's the one who took care of me when I was sick and went to all my school plays and had to deal with my teenage attitude. That is my mom. What you're asking about is my biological mom.
Right.
And so that's where the name came from, because it was just the knee-jerk first question that people would ask. And
Yeah, because they're curious.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's a fair question.
Right.
So after the fire, my birth mom passed away. And the thing that you would typically do, or at least I would typically do when losing someone, is to look back through mementos and pictures, maybe the letter that she first sent me when we first got in contact. Well, I didn't have any of that. All of that was gone after the fire.
Yeah.
And so I wasn't quite sure how to process that loss. And because people were always curious about my adoption, I had people say that I should write a book about it. And every time I had tried, I just could not have any flow. I could not get the words on the page, I'd stare at the paper or the computer screen.
Like writer's block?
Yes, completely. Where do you even start this crazy story?
Yeah.
It's such a multifaceted, crazy story. But when I sat down and I started writing through a podcast lens, it just flowed. And so the podcast encapsulates my background of being adopted with what the story was there that got me to where I was. And then also processing that grief of losing my biological mom, while still processing the grief of losing so many things from the fire that I hadn't processed all the way.
Right.
And so it's very vulnerable, just,
Yeah.
you know, Kelli's journey. And it really helped me a lot. And I thought, if I can publish this and it helps one person to process whatever it is they need to process, whether it's adoption, whether it's fire related, whatever it is that they need to work through, and I can help them with my story, then I'm going to do it.
Yeah. I'm curious about, you reached out to an agency to try to locate or be able to talk to your biological mother. Mm-hmm. And she responded saying, yes, she would be down for that.
Yeah.
I mean, what was that like?
It was wild. It was wild.
Was it what you expected, or did you come away from that like with more curiosity, or how did it emotionally land on you, that experience?
So I wonder what this says about me as a person, but I remember as a child even, I would envision that if I met my birth parents, they would be totally dysfunctional and a wreck. And I think that was to protect myself, so that, because you hear of kids who think that their birth parent is going to be a movie star and, you know, whatever. And so I kind of did the opposite. And, I mean, my birth parents were great people. They're, you know, average people living their lives. So I will never forget sitting on the front porch of, my childhood home, and I had the envelope in my hand. That was my first correspondence. And it was so crazy because I would finally know what she looked like. And I had never known what my birth mother looked like, and my brother, and that moment of, there's going to be a face and there's going to be a name. I didn't have a name for so long. And when I found out her name, it was a huge deal. So it was very emotional. Just in getting that little hole inside of me filled a little bit. And it wasn't, like I said, my birth parents, just like we all are, they're average people. They're great people. There was nothing stunning about the story, except that I just got to know a little more about me.
Yeah. And was this like you had one encounter with your biological mom? Was it multiple, or was one all you needed?
Yeah. So after the correspondence, I actually flew to Louisiana. She lives in rural Louisiana. Flew out there and met her. She was the youngest of 8 siblings. So I met her and 7 of the 8 and their children, and sometimes their children, and my grandma and my biological brother.
Okay.
Which was incredible.
That's a lot. That seems like it would be overwhelming.
It was. But, I mean, they were just so warm and hospitable. That's and great. Lovely. And I made it. It was not a really long visit. It was a few days. My husband actually went with me. We weren't even engaged at the time. Like, wow, what a sign of commitment. Like, hey, want to fly to rural Louisiana with me and meet a bunch of people that I don't know?
And he said yes.
And he said yes.
Okay.
Yeah, he's quite the guy. So yeah, that was incredible. And then she came out for my college graduation right before our wedding. And then I believe those are the only times we saw each other face to face. For both of us, I didn't need a new mom, and she had let go of me many years ago. Yeah. So we got to know each other, and I think for both of us, each of us, it filled a hole. My brother and I have an ongoing relationship and have seen each other since, which is wonderful. I adore him.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Earlier you mentioned the campfire or the wildfire. And a lot of people listening to this are going to be very familiar with it, but there's others that aren't going to be as tuned into the campfire. So talk to us about 2018 and how did that impact your family and how did it impact your career?
Okay. It changed everything. It really, for all of us survivors, you know, it really changed our whole lives in ways that we couldn't even fathom on that day.
Give us a quick snapshot. When we're talking campfire, people think like they're going camping and they're they're roasting marshmallows, but what is the campfire? What happened?
So the historic, I'm sick of historic events, by the way. We've lived enough of them. So it was a historic wildfire that took out, you know, I've heard different percentages, but one that people tend to go to is 95% of our community in a day. Mm-hmm. So my family, I mean, we lost our home. My parents lost their home. My sister and her family. My brother, my grandma. So an interesting piece of that is most of my childhood, photos and documents and things like that were all gone. So I just decided I can make it up to be whatever I want it to be. I was amazing. There's the upside.
You can go commit whatever crimes you
right?
want. And like who?
It's all gone. But my family did all leave after the fire. And that was a big deal for me because my family had always been 15 minutes around the corner.
Yeah.
And so they've all left, to various states, and they aren't returning. And that's been a really difficult piece. My little family, my husband and my 2 children and I, it was so interesting because my husband is a brick and stone mason, and so he works all over the place, and he'd always come home and, I just worked at this beautiful neighborhood in Durham. Would you want to live in Durham or Forest Ranch or Kelly Ridge or all these, beautiful places that he would work? And I was always the stubborn one, like, no, I live in paradise.
Yeah, it's paradise.
And then all of a sudden it was like, I guess we can go look now. And so we did. We took the kids and went and looked at various houses, and we ended up buying a house that survived 5 months after the fire. We were back up the hill because it's like, that makes me emotional. My whole family was so committed to coming back and rebuilding and being a part of it. And we made the decision very much as the 4 of us sitting down. And my kids were young. My son was in 8th grade and my daughter was in 4th grade. Yeah. And so we had to explain to them, like, if we buy this house, we're driving through debris every day. And you're going to be seeing, I remember driving out of town and we stopped counting at 100 dump trucks that were lined up. We didn't have water yet. We had to order water to come to the house. But the whole family was very passionate. Like, no, that's our home and that's where we want to be.
How did it impact your career?
Yeah. So, it had a huge impact on my career. I had been working at a chief charter school. I went to help open their middle school program in 2006 and had really grown up there as a professional. I, like I said, helped found the program, taught there for, a dozen years, and absolutely loved my job, loved my work family, loved the students that I worked with. I had just transitioned into the role of high school principal at Achieve High School. That is where I saw my life.
Which was new, right?
Yes, we had just opened in the fall. Yeah. So talk about an abrupt career change, because here, we lost the school. The town demographic was completely different, so there was no longer a need for that program, and so I had to reevaluate, and I ended up going and working for Butte County Office of Education, which was wonderful. Learned so much, met so many great people, but really had to adjust my mind around that complete and total identity shift of who I thought I was and where I thought I would be was completely different, because not only my family was gone, but my work family was gone. So it was massive, and has actually taken me to incredibly beautiful places.
Yeah, that's one part of that specific event that I don't think people grasp very well, because it's not like you lost your home and the community was still around to rally with you. They all lost their homes too, and they were trying to figure out which way was up and which way was down. And everyone going through that at the same time. I mean, it was just a recipe for, it's beautiful. It's beautiful because people figured out how to love each other, but at the same time, it's just its own animal when everyone experiences the same trauma, the same disaster in the same 24 hours.
Yeah.
It's like it's hard to fathom, like, oh, I don't have my neighbors anymore. Like, I know my house is gone. I can deal with that. I don't have my neighbors. I don't have my community. Yeah. For me, I didn't have my church. Like, it was a lot of things. Our kids, they didn't have their school. Nothing was quote unquote normal.
No.
For a long time. And so, yeah, that's one unique thing about it. It's, I often, people say, well, did you go stay with your family? Well, they all lost their homes too.
Right.
It's like, no, that wasn't an option. It's just,
Right.
It was a totally, totally different beast. I'm curious about your rebuild process, because you had made a decision to rebuild in Paradise. Sounds like your family's like, no, we're gonna eat, sleep, and breathe Paradise. We're gonna bleed green and gold.
Yes.
Which is awesome. I love that. What was the rebuilding process like for you? Like where did you actually rebuild, and why was that special? And then what was it like to actually step into your new home and realize, here we are, was it 6 years later, you're home again?
Yeah.
What was that like?
Magical. One of the hardest things, I had a hard time visiting my parents' property, because that was my childhood home. I'd grown up there. I love the outdoors. I love nature. I know all the birds and the plants and just, and the bugs, the silly little things bring me so much joy. And going to their property brought me so much grief. I could hardly go there. And they were, like I said, they weren't returning. And so they had actually listed it for sale. And so I went to go dig up my great grandma's irises that had come up front, because I wanted to transfer them to my property. And when I was there, I looked around and there was so much life. It wasn't just great grandma's irises. It was the maples that my dad planted on my mom's 50th birthday, and the little bits of ivy that I had twisted to cover a whole fence when I was a teenager were just starting to come back. And my brother was there doing some tractor work, and I just stood there, and I knew I could live there again, because it was alive. The life was coming back, and seeing that
it's like
life.
A new bloom.
Yeah, exactly. And I called my husband on the way home and said, what do you think? And he was like, absolutely, that's what I want to do. That's where we should be.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yes, 100%. And he had talked about it before then. I wasn't ready. It just hurt too bad to go to that property. But once I saw it coming back to life, it was full send. So we were able to buy the property from my parents, and got to design our home. And we moved in a year and a half ago in the fall of 2020. What would that be? 24.
Yeah.
And that was, I'll never forget. I mean, I get emotional just thinking about it, because just being, like I said, that was my family home, and then being there with my family. I mean, I'm not a big crier, but that night I just sat on the front porch and cried.
Yeah. Appropriately. Yeah. Okay, so you were at Achieve, and then you stepped in to be co-principal at Paradise High School, which that was a high school that you went to, right? You were a student there. Yeah. That in itself is a unique story.
Yeah.
What is it like to be the principal of a school that you once attended?
Oh, it's wild. You take in the component that I'm living on my childhood property, so where I lived in high school, and I drive every day to the high school that I went to.
Same commute.
It's very surreal, very full circle. I had not anticipated that being a part of my story, and it's so incredible. After the fire, when I went to Butte County Office of Education, I mean, I was in a very comfortable, wonderful job with great colleagues, and then I heard that the opportunity was coming up at Paradise High, and I had been very involved from the County Office of Ed. I was able to support Paradise High and was always reaching out and trying to support Paradise High and Ridgeview as much as possible. And when I had also said that I was not going to go back to site leadership, because I knew how hard site leadership is. Yeah. It is not an easy
not for
gig.
Wimps.
Yeah, not for wimps. But when that opportunity came up, I had to, put my money where my mouth was and roll my sleeves up and let's get in and let's do this. And it's incredible to get to play that role in our community, especially alongside my co-principal. We graduated together.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. If you would have told the two of us down on the field that night that we would be co-principals, we never would have believed you.
What is a unique challenge you have in leading that school? I mean, these are all students. The students that are there now, not all of them, most all of them lived through the trauma of the campfire. And quite honestly, the staff that work there. What's like a unique challenge you see as a leader of that school, dealing with students and staff that have gone through such a big traumatic event?
Yeah, it is challenging. It is also my greatest blessing to get the honor to do that. I think one thing that's important to keep in mind is there is a lot of trauma in youth, and especially on the Ridge. We've had high trauma rates for a long time, and the fire just compounded that. The interesting thing is, in my children who, came through Paradise High School as teenagers after the fire, and you throw COVID in the middle of that too.
Yeah, a good second wave.
They have gotten so close to one another. And I see Ridge kids, they are proud of being Ridge kids and who they are. And they, I think it's kind of indicative of the whole community. You always have different groups who disagree with each other over different things. And you're always going to have different friend groups who, hang out.
Sure.
But there's a lot more unity, which I think is something that people wouldn't expect. Like, yes, the trauma is there and the trauma is heavy. And the fact that we can all empathize with each other and we know what each other have been through is impactful.
Yeah, I can see that being the case. You all go through something that's so life-changing and so dramatic. It is a unifier. It is a unifier. With the students, but also probably with the staff as well. I mean, they've all got their own stories too. Not everyone that works at Paradise High is living in Paradise. So you got that wide, but they still went through it, right? They still went through it in their own way.
Well, and even if they came, it's so interesting because the community is changing so much to where now the majority of people moving into town were not there before,
right?
Which is a huge shift. And the thing that is so beautiful and so incredible about Paradise High School staff is each and every one of them has sacrificed and dedicated themselves choosing to be there. They're not there by default. They're there because they want to be there and they passionately believe in the kids on the Ridge and that program. And you don't get that most places, right? A lot of people are like, well, I ended up here, or that was a better salary package, or, whatever the aspects are. It's really unique to get the honor of leading a school where each and every person is so passionate about that program.
Yeah. And I just want to echo that, because one of the things I say often in the podcast here is like, the idea behind Choose the Better Story is you and I have the ability to put on a cape every day and go out and be the hero of our own life or the hero of somebody else's life. And just a quick shout out to, if you're listening and you're a teacher or you work in education, like, you literally every day put on a hero's cape, and you make a difference in lives. But I would just echo what you said. Yeah, those teachers in Paradise, they chose to go back to, I'll call it the battlefield, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a career, but they knew what they were getting into. Like, these students it was gonna be a tough go, right? Rebuilding from the ground up is not for wimps. It doesn't matter what phase of leadership you're in, but a teacher who's investing in students who have been through that, and then they've been through it themselves, choosing to put their cape on and like, nope, I'm going back up to the hill, and we're going to make something special out of this, is a hero in action. So I absolutely love that. What would you say are two things you're most proud of in relation to your career?
I liked that you sent me this ahead of time, because I would have had a really hard time answering if I didn't have think time. And the biggest thing I think of is 17-year-old me. And she would be really surprised who I am in the aspect of my career, my community leadership. And she'd be so proud. And I'm very proud that I'm making her proud, because I've always stayed authentically me. I think when you go into leadership, there's a lot of pressure and temptation to conform to other people's expectations. And I've always done things kind of my way, whether, for better or for worse, always learning and always growing. But I would make her proud in that she'd be surprised of who I am, but she'd also be very proud of me for still being her. And that leads into the second thing that I'm most proud of, is because I am my authentic self and I have embraced my authentic strengths, I've been able to have a positive impact in the lives of students and families on the Paradise Ridge and educators on the Paradise Ridge, which I'm very proud of.
Yeah, That is incredible. Yeah, and you've done a lot of great work there. I'm curious which 17-year-olds right now you're investing in that will be investing in the community like you are, at your age. And so, that's kind of the investment you're making. I'm assuming you're investing in the next generation of leadership in Paradise or in another community. It doesn't really matter if it's another community, but that's a great perspective. Yeah, your 17-year-old self would be blown away by what you're doing. And that's probably the case for a lot of the people that you're serving right now, which is awesome. What's a hard truth about the education system that most leaders know, but they're not really willing to talk about?
Sure. I think something that people assume about education, they assume that there's more autonomy in education than there is. There's a lot of legislative advocacy that needs to happen. In fact, I remember my dad, when I went into education, he said, okay, well, when are you going into politics? And I said, I'm not going into politics. I hate politics. And he laughed, and he's still laughing because it is such a huge piece. People say, well, why don't you do this, that, or the other? Like, that's not even an option.
Right.
Like, there's so many laws and so many, I'm just going to say it. There's laws that are made by people who don't work in schools. And so they don't understand the impact. The intention is always really good.
Right.
The impact is sometimes ludicrous. So I think that would be the biggest thing, that the amount of laws that we have to follow, or things. I have people all the time say, well, that doesn't make it sense at all. Wouldn't it make sense to do it this way? Yes, it would. But I have to do it that way because the law says.
Yeah. And sometimes you just want to be like, hey, these people that are like putting these laws into effect, I wish they would just come spend 1 hour in an actual classroom.
Yes. We say that frequently as a high school staff. Even like you look at, we have this beautiful, beautiful new building that we're so grateful for. And there are certain things that we're like, oh, people who don't run a high school made this. And it is beautiful. And they didn't think about that the kids are going to do this.
Right. Yeah, that's funny. I'm curious about, because we're quickly, very rapidly entering in the AI age. And I'm just curious with AI, how you think that's going to be impacting education, like the good, bad, and the ugly. How do you see that impacting education?
Yeah, it's absolutely it already is impacting education, right? And I think a lot of the background of the understanding of AI is still being built out in people, because really when you're using spell check, you're using AI. It's predictive, right? It's looking for patterns.
And I like that.
Yeah,
helps me out a lot.
Exactly, right? So I think in education, we have to build our understanding around what AI actually is and how we can use it. The hugest thing is using it as a tool to where you still have the human input. So I did not make this up. Someone was telling me this recently. I think it was from our Butte County Office of Education friends. But you need the human input, then you can use the AI to help, and then you need the human input again. Like it really has to be guided by humans. So we're going to fumble a little bit as we figure out what that looks like. I think there's scary aspects to where, the chatbots and things that can talk to teenagers and make them think that they're real people. Yeah. We need to proceed with caution. Sure. So I'm curious where it takes us. I think it's here whether we like it or not, just like the internet's here whether we like it or not, and social media is here whether we like it or not. Yeah. And our job as educators is to figure out how to operate within that and how to teach students how to operate within that.
Yeah, I would imagine, having a leadership role, it's a fine balance between how is this helping develop them, and then also how should we be protecting our kids, right?
Yeah, and their identities, because there's so much of their information. Yeah. A big thing that I keep hearing, so my biggest passion is bridging education and workforce development. And a big piece that I hear is we're doing our students a disservice if we don't teach them about AI, because when they enter the job market in most fields, they're going to be expected to understand and use it. Yeah. So I don't think we can stick our heads in the sand. I think we have to, hit it head on.
Yeah, for sure. I know you've heard the phrase, it takes a village, but let's talk about a community that's rebuilding. What are you doing to stay involved with rebuilding Paradise? How are you a part of the village that's helping rebuild Paradise?
My everyday. That is my focus of my everyday. I think the biggest thing that I see when we have the opportunity to rebuild a community, it's hard because there's a lot of people, including myself, who grieve the Paradise that was, and it never will be the same Paradise again. It's going to be a blend of honoring the elements that we treasure historically and bringing in, getting rid of some of the things that weren't great.
Yeah.
We're having a more diverse community than we ever have before, which I'm super excited about.
Yeah.
So in order to do that, in my opinion, a big piece is breaking down all the silos. It's very easy for society in any aspect to be siloed. Even in education, you can have elementary that doesn't talk to secondary, or, you can have community groups who don't talk to schools, but they want to do something about education, but they don't actually talk to the people at the schools. And then you've got workforce development and private business. And that was one thing that I saw several years ago when I was working with Butte County Office of Education, is you had all these similar conversations going on. We had one in the Rotary Vocational Committee. You had private business who were talking about the same thing. You have schools talking about the same thing. How do we bridge education and workforce? When we can break those walls down and we can get everybody around a table and get people understanding what each other even do for the first thing, like, oh, what is that community group? What are you all about? Then you build this huge web where you're all reaching out to each other, you're communicating with each other, you get that unified vision of where is it we want to go and how are we going to get there, and you all start swimming the same direction. So that's my biggest passion, is making those connections and breaking down those silos so that we can all swim. We're all going to disagree, that'll happen. But if we can remain united in that we want to make Paradise everything that it truly can be, that's what it takes.
Yeah, and collaborate, getting all those people together around the same table to collaborate.
Yeah, and it's not about ego. It's not about your organization doing better than another one or you getting a title. Yeah. It has to be about the community and putting that first.
Yep, absolutely. You've experienced Paradise as a child and as a survivor of a wild event, and now a leader that's rebuilding it. What do you see about the town of Paradise that maybe outsiders wouldn't get because all they've seen is maybe something that they've seen on the news? Like, what's going on in Paradise that's really exciting right now that people don't understand?
Yeah. I think the biggest thing that makes me excited is that people are talking to each other, and that it's just like the school staff. People who live in Paradise, and when I say Paradise, I mean the Paradise Ridge. Yeah. Like, we're including Magalia and Sterling City. Everybody who lives there chose to live there. And when you have that energy, it's just incredible. Like, when you talk to people, why did you move to Paradise? Well, I want to be a part of a community that is determining who they want to be and getting there. Like, you have young families moving up the hill saying that. I want to be part of something. Yeah. And that energy is extremely evident in everywhere you go in Paradise. I don't think you find that much community passion in most communities. And you have it partnered with, I think also people assume that it's ugly because many of our trees are gone. It's beautiful. Yeah. It's so beautiful. We have.
Well, they've seen in the news. They've seen the ugly because that's what the news has showed for so long, and probably still does. Even when they're recounting, it's been the 5th year, 6th year, 7th year. It's always they show the devastation of the fire. Yeah. What's going on in terms of the beauty?
Oh, it's so beautiful. The new buildings that we have going up, we just had Hope Plaza is just being dedicated this weekend, which is a monument to campfire survivors. So much new construction. Sometimes I'll just go drive around different neighborhoods because, yes, it does look different. And my childhood friend's home that used to be right there isn't there anymore. But there is a house that is not just a new pretty house. I don't want to say that it's just a new pretty house. It's a house that somebody has gotten to put their all into, and they've gotten to design, and they've gotten to pick the different elements, and they're really proud of their bright turquoise door or whatever it is. And nature-wise, you have so many trees that are back, and our skies and our sunsets and our sunrises are just unbelievable. They're unbelievably stunning.
Yeah, I see on Facebook people post, the sunsets in paradise all the time, and you didn't have that before.
No.
Like all you had was pine trees or oak trees.
Yeah.
And you got a clear view of the sky now. It's a beautiful thing.
It's beautiful. I would make the joke, we had Valley View and Valley Ridge, which were really, high dollar spots because you got to have that view. Yeah. Well, a lot of us have a Valley View now.
I know. Yeah, you're not kidding. Yeah, and like even driving some roads in paradise, you can see all the way down to the valley. You never would have been able to do that before.
Yeah, you can see the Sutter Buttes. Mm-hmm. You can see Sawmill Peak.
Yeah. And
the wildlife. In my yard, there's everything besides the birds and the turkeys and the coyotes and the foxes and, the mountain lions and the bunnies. And it's beautiful. It's small town life at its best.
I love it. Well, when people look back 20 years from now, what do you hope they say about you and what you've invested into the community and into the school?
I hope that they say that I added value. That's really what I want. I want to be a piece of when the community was broken. That's what I would want people to say, that I helped to put it back together and make it something even more beautiful.
I appreciate you taking your time, because I know you're busy, taking your time to hang out with me. Is there anything else you feel like you would want to communicate to the listening audience about what you do or about the town of Paradise or your story?
I guess just that I'm a connector. So if anything resonates and people wanted to reach out, I love connecting people. That's my favorite thing in the world. Is I love to meet lots of wonderful people in lots of different arenas, and I usually don't know an answer, but I typically know someone who does.
And if somebody wanted to connect with you, what would be the best way to do that? Is that like social media or?
Probably LinkedIn.
Okay.
LinkedIn is a good one. I'm not as active. I told you on Facebook lately. I love Facebook, but being in a leadership position, sometimes there's a lot of noise. So I've taken it off my phone. So probably LinkedIn.
Yeah, awesome. Well, again, thanks for spending time with us. As we head out today, I just want to remind you that you are the hero of your own story. And so this week, would you put on your cape and take the role of the hero and not just make your life the better story, but make someone else's life the better story? And I really like what Kelli said just a few minutes ago, is just making that investment into the community and making and providing value. And you might know somebody that's really going through it right now, and life has flipped upside down for them. And it's possible that the one person that could bring the greatest amount of hope is you who's listening to this. So strap on that cape nice and tight this week and go out and make the difference in someone else's life. That's the way to choose a better story. Have a great week.
A better life, better vision, what you wanting? Let's make it happen. Time to choose the better story. Come on. Choose the better story. Hey, choose the better story. Yeah.